This summer, Simon Moro, Terry Hart, Knobs, an audio production podcast. Remember to like and subscribe.
So episode 10. I can't believe we made it this far.
I know, right?
Yeah, and we haven't repeated ourselves once.
Not sure that's true.
Well, today we begin. We're going to do some kind of short-ish question and answers.
Mm-hmm.
And what have we got written down on this piece of paper? Why does my mix sound great in the studio but terrible in the car?
Big question.
I think it's first thing is to be grateful to have a car. Like a lot of people miss that.
I know, right?
Like, oh, I'm really depressed about my mix, but you're in a car.
It sounds terrible on the boombox on the back of my push bike.
Exactly. But do you have a theory?
There's lots of different possible reasons. I know a lot of smaller setups, they suffer from slightly small speakers, and so they compensate with a sub. And they'll get it out to the car and realise that all that bottom end they thought was there, not really there at all, and just sounds tinny as hell. I think that can be a common one. I think it's quite common that when you're fighting with reverb, like if it's not in a you haven't taken care of all the reflections in your space and all that sort of thing, you'll be kind of pushing reverb a little bit harder than you should to try to compensate for to get over the sound of the room. But then when you get in a car and you're just listening to it, it's just washed with reverb. It's going to be very, very hard to hear little frequency differences. The high mids are really the abrasive part. It's going to be really difficult to hear those differences if it's not a perfect listen-in space. And then when you hear it through harsh speakers, the gloves are off.
They are.
It gets ugly. What do you reckon?
On top of all of that, which I agree with, I guess other things to consider is you might still have poor translation on a good system.
Absolutely.
And it just comes down to that translation thing, which we can get into shortly. But the other thing to just remember is when you're listening in the car, you're off to one side. So like immediately everything that's pan center is going to be to your left.
That's true. And reverb's going to sound more in that case as well.
Exactly. Just sitting off to the side is enough it throws your stereo image. You're no longer in the sweet spot.
Quite a bit.
But in terms of when I think about failing the car test, that term to me is a generic term for it sounds bad everywhere else. Yeah. Whether it's the car or headphones.
That's the thing. You know your car and you listen to all the rest of the music that's ever been produced in that car. Yeah. And so you kind of know what it sounds like, even if it is off to the side and messed around. It's just, if you're failing that, something's off, right?
Yeah.
But it might go back to what you said in another podcast about your mix never sounds as good.
Well, there's that is just the imposter syndrome and the perfectionist that,
right.
That I'm never going to win that battle. But that is true. We have such high expectations of ourselves. And I think what I might have mentioned this before. I know that I've said it to people before. A good exercise is to go and listen to your favorite records, pretend you mix them. You're going to have mixed notes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one thing to keep in mind. But I think, when I remember back in the day when I failed the car test every single time, it was 100% because of my monitoring environment.
Yep.
I had Genelec 1029As in the sub, which that's not a bad little system.
No, absolutely not.
But the room wasn't great.
Yeah.
So everywhere I took my mix, it was thin and brittle. Then I did an frequency analysis of the room. The room was attenuating the tops and boosting the bottoms. So when I'm mixing, I'm pulling out the lows and I'm boosting the tops. So I think the first thing to recognize is that that gut-wrenching failure in another acoustic space is 100% translation.
Yeah.
And the first thing to celebrate is if you hear the difference, it's not you. So that's sort of a nice little
Your taste
psychological-
is fine. You know what's
Yeah, it basically
right,
means
yeah.
if you took it to the car and it was horrible, but it didn't sound any different to you, your ears aren't designed for this.
Yeah.
But if you go to the car test and fail, go, I'm not broken. I can articulate the difference. I can hear that it's different. I need to fix my critical listening environment.
And we've both said it now.
Yeah.
It is usually tinny.
Yeah.
And nothing there. So it's usually the same thing. And the other way that can happen with monitor environments, if you don't have a good monitor environment, even if it's perfectly flat, but just you're not vibing it, you're going to turn it up. You're going to feel the bass more, which means you're going to turn it up less.
Yep.
And to get that top end to compete. So volume's a massive one in your mix environment as well for translation, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. So translation and sorting out your critical listening environment would help, because now I would say since I invested in my Grover Nodding monitors that I've had for probably a decade now, from that point where I went to, they're a high-end monitor. They're not $100,000, but they're a $30,000 system.
Yeah.
And from that point, I never failed the car test again. I never failed it. I might have got to the car and thought, I'd like to turn that up a little bit. I'd like to turn that down a little bit.
But that's different, yeah.
But I get to the car and go, okay, I never got that shock of I'm a horrible engineer.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're not going to suggest you spend $30,000 on monitoring, but the things we can do is we can use speaker calibration tools. We can use headphone calibration tools. I would think the easiest, cheapest place to start is a headphone calibration tool.
Yep.
To try and even out your headphones, even if you're mixing.
Because all the profiles are there.
Exactly.
You just download
the profiles
them,
are there. You can do it very quickly. I think even Waves have that $29 NX, and I think that's got headphone profiles in there.
Yeah, I believe so.
Start there. Even if it's not what you're doing the mix on, just check it on there. And the other great thing you can do is do a room EQ analysis.
Yeah.
You could even just run pink noise into an omnidirectional mic, flat reference mic, and look at it in your DAW. Just see what
comes back.
See what the waveform is doing, and you'll notice peaks and troughs, and it will probably be the inverse of what you hear outside of the room.
Yeah, yeah. And you do, and that's the other thing. I mean, there's definitely software for this which is going to be more effective, but I remember mixing in some less than perfect spots, and you do get to know. Like I know in one of them that 150 hertz just was a nightmare, so I wouldn't really make a judgment on it. I'd steer clear of it. I'd work either side of it, and if I had to do it, it would be on headphones, as you said. Yeah.
And the great thing about that is when you know what the room is doing, it's easy just to look at a spectrum analyzer.
Yes.
I'll look at the spectrum analyzer in my particular room, in my mix room. I have a massive attenuation between about 80 and 140.
Yeah.
Horrible. I will address it.
Yeah.
But I haven't addressed it yet. And the arc does a decent job of filling it out for me. But if I turn the arc off, I know it's a bit empty there. I look at my spectrum analyzer. There's not a big hole in the spectrum analyzer.
Yeah.
So I know it's right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the other thing, spectrum
Sometimes you
analyzers.
got to trust your tools.
Exactly. Speaking of tools, what's our next question? What actually makes a mix sound professional?
Well, that's a hard question. I mean, there's obviously that. I think translation's good, but I think like if you had to dumb it down to one thing, like Desert Island, I'd say a mix sounds professional when you don't hear it.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah?
100% agree.
Nice.
We do not want to hear the mix.
I was ready to get into fisticuffs. Damn.
I want to feel the song. No, I mean that I think it's as simple. I actually think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. And I don't think I've got better, like the best feedback I could possibly get from an artist is like going, oh, we love it. We don't really hear that you've done anything, but it sounds really good.
Yeah. I think
they still have to pay.
I didn't have an answer for that question.
Really?
No. I can elaborate on why I think what you've said, why I agree with what you've said. And I think we've touched on this before, is that it's kind of like the drummer that's a little bit out of time. And there's this subconscious pulling of focus to the kick drum that was a little bit late and a little bit early. And I think it's the same thing with a mix that you notice. You go, oh, that thing was a little bit loud and I noticed it, or that reverb's a bit murky and muddy. So it's those things of noticing the mix.
Yeah.
It's like I notice the technology when something's been tracked on a cheap mic and a cheap converters. I'm hearing the
shortcomings of it.
Exactly. So, you know, I think that is probably the most simple universal response is when you don't notice the mix.
We could go deep, but I think it's going to roll back to that at some point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's next on our list? Do expensive microphones actually sound better?
You take the lead. You take the lead.
Well, I think it's not a simple black and white answer.
Definitely not, no.
Because I've used very expensive mics that I didn't like, and I've used cheap mics that I did. I've used cheap mics that I hate and expensive mics that I love. So I think...
I mean, anyone that says that, how cool is a 57? I mean,
A 57 is cheap and is still one of the best guitar and snare mics.
And so many things, yeah. Like sometimes nothing else. There was an album I did years and years and years ago, and we went through the entire arsenal, and the 57 won out for the vocals.
Yeah,
it was just right. It was just, and it's pretty rare. Like it's not the best vocal mic, but
yeah,
it does an amazing job.
That's it. So I would say that expensive microphone, there's going to be the law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about fidelity, and I've put warm audio microphones up against real Neumanns, and it was night and day in favor of the Neumann.
Yeah.
And it's just that, like, it's kind of hard to explain if you haven't heard it. It's kind of like try explaining what running is if you've never run. When you hear it, it's just a richness and a fullness, and kind of like the mix. You don't notice it, or what you notice is just the voice sounds
so nice. And really old vintage mics like that are definitely like that, because a lot of the time you really don't notice it. You listen to it and you go, it might even sound poxy.
Yeah.
But then put it in the mix.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, why is that just there?
Yeah.
Like it's there. It doesn't matter how much I turn it down or up or anything. It's so present. And, quite similar to the plate reverb we were talking about the other day. It's not necessarily obvious until you start placing it with other things.
Yeah. And it's a compounding effect. So I think throwing you could have a cheap mic that's really well designed.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you've got a cheap mic and you're hearing that it's noisy and the top end is harsh and thin and brittle, that's bad. But you can get cost-effective mics that actually do sound great. An example of one that I think I notice it in a bad way is a Rode NT1A.
It's definitely a sound.
Like it's a sound. I hear it and go, well, that is definitely not as smooth and silky as my vintage 87.
It's a lot of those range of Rode. So they had the pencil condensers as well. It's a particular glassy top end. Like it's very specific sound.
And it might just be a component choice. And this is the thing, is that they can swap out one or two components in manufacturing that can save hundreds of thousands of dollars to the bottom line. But it might just add that brittleness to the sound.
I feel a lot of those manufacturers get too hung up on a flat response. And they need to listen to it a bit more, because all the mics we love, they have anything but a flat response.
Yeah. Yeah. So my answer is I'm quite happy to use microphones at different price points, but I want well-made ones at the different price points. You know, these SE mics that we're using, I think are a couple $100 dynamic mics. I think these are incredibly well made. They sound great.
Yeah.
But there is not a $200 condenser mic that competes with our Gefell mics or Neumanns, in my opinion.
No, it does need to hit a certain price point. But there's some great value ones. I know the Mictech MV4, I think. I used to have that up against, like, it was always in my vocal shootouts.
Yeah.
And the amount of times it won was disturbing. And you can pick them up for just over $1,000.
Yeah.
And I'm comparing it to $50,000 microphones, things like that. And it just won so often.
Yeah. So I think in summary, we think it's less about the price and more about the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So hunt around and find the bargains.
Yeah.
And let's go for another question. Why do professional vocals sound so much bigger than mine?
The vocalist. This is the answer that nobody wants. But let's be honest.
It's the vocalist.
It's the vocalist.
Yeah.
You can sit in a room with some of these vocalists, these amazing vocalists, and it's just you're tearing up and they're halfway through the first verse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult to understate and it's incredibly difficult to tell someone that hasn't experienced it. I remember just being drilled into me when I was studying sound and then reading all of the audio magazines, Audio Technology, Sound on Sound, and everyone saying, it's all about the performance. It's all about the musician. I'd recorded what I thought were good musicians. They played in time. They played well. Then I recorded like really good musicians.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know what they meant when they said that. Now I get it.
Yeah.
And I've never looked back. And it's all well and good for me to say that now, but if you are serious about this industry, about becoming the best you can be as a producer or as an artist, then just hire some incredible musicians. Just have the experience, or if a cheap alternative, how many times have you seen a support act and then the headliner just blew them away? Same rooms, same mics, probably the same engineer.
Yeah.
Sometimes the same backline. That's the musicians.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you can understand it with the voice. There's so much control that a good singer has, and there's plenty of ways which a voice will not sound good. But then you look at an acoustic guitar, same acoustic guitar, and how different it could sound in different people's hands. I remember a while ago I was doing a drum session. Well, we were doing a whole band, but the next day I had another drum session. They just wanted an hour, and usually I wouldn't say yes to it, but I thought, I'm going to have it set up. Let's just go. And I spent the hour trying to get the drums to sound good again because he just wasn't the best drummer, but it was the exact same setup, exact same compressors, mics, pre's, the whole thing. And the amount more effort that you had to go, the difference in the sound of that instrument. At first I was running in tune and it was like, oh God, the temperature last night must have just mangled the drums. But no.
It was,
Man hits skin with stick different.
Yeah. I know we need to bring it back to the voice, but I did just see a study that had, I need to verify it. I haven't done the primary research. I just read the article that they recently proved that the pianist's touch.
Yes, I read that as well.
Did you read it?
Yep.
So the touch of the pianist actually affects the string resonance in the piano.
Because physicists said no.
Physicists said no.
Because it's a hammer.
Yeah.
And there's only a certain way that it can go. But there's a very subtle part about it's what's called escapement. Like the key has to, this is going to be hard to discuss, but the key has to flick the hammer up and then not hold it up, because if it holds it up, it just deadens the string. So it sort of pushes it and then flicks off the bottom of it and comes down. But the way that you can massage that point, the hammer can just hang there for a millisecond longer. And there's tonal differences that those guys can get.
Yeah.
It's finally been proven.
Yeah. So vocals, the person definitely makes a difference. Let's look at the chain.
Yeah.
It starts with the voice, and the voice is, I don't want to say like the voice is 90%, because it's kind of like the voice is 100% of the source.
Yeah.
100% of the source.
Yeah.
And the vocalist's ability to emote and express and fill a room with sound is the critical part. So if you're a vocalist that lacks that ability, then the first place to start before you change your microphone is vocal coaching.
Yeah.
So go get vocal coaching. I often put artists into vocal coaching leading up to a record, just so that they've got better breath control and resonance. So the source, then what's next? Well, I would probably say the next thing is the acoustic space.
Yep.
Because if the vocalist is a great vocalist, they're going to sound good in any space. couple them to a great space, and they're going to sound like really, really great.
That's the thing. From there, it's all just little choices to improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would pick the best vocalist in a closet with an average microphone over an average singer in a great space.
Just not a Rode NT1.
Just not an NT1A. So then we've coupled them to a great space. Then it's the right microphone. Then it's the right pre. Then it's the right converters.
It's trotting on down the line, isn't it? It's following the signal.
Yeah. It's signal flow.
And that is a rule of thumb for the whole thing. If you need to change something, you start at the source and work your way down, definitely.
Yeah. So I would say the reason why your vocals sound different is because there is so much more to vocal production than just putting a microphone in front of a mouth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you've got the fanciest microphone and you've bought all of the stuff that the magazine said to buy. It's the voice, it's the room, it's the signal chain, it's the engineering, it's the gain structure, and it's the post-production.
I mean, yeah, the mix stuff is a podcast in itself about what you could do to that. But it starts with a vocal.
Let's do a vocal podcast.
We'll do a vocal podcast. Yeah.
I might. Okay, let's do this one. How loud should I record?
Is that, you mean into the door? Like what levels you should be hitting?
I haven't got specificity on the question.
No,
but we could address all of those things. If we look at,
because it's a hard one. I mean, how loud could you record a guitar amp? So if we even did start with the source, it's like, well, that is a whole can of worms to open up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start with a simple thing, which is metering. What level should you hit your converters?
Yeah.
I tend to aim for -30 dBFS.
Yeah, right.
And the reason for that is I'm recording at 24-bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the old kind of -12 dB peaks was the 16-bit CD kind of standard. And I kept doing that for a while. But then I found that at mix time, I was just having to clip gain everything down.
Yeah, okay.
So these days I'll aim for between -20 and -30.
Yeah, okay. I probably push it a little bit harder than that. And the reason being is where line level sits, which should be, around that -18 area. A lot of gear, especially vintage gear, is built around there, and the further either side you get of that, the less transient response you get, which can be used to your advantage. But that goes for under or over. Most bits of gear will absolutely be fine at -30, but there's definitely old stuff that I'd be pushing up a bit higher than that, but it's not much.
Yeah,
it's 5 or 10 dB, and again, the more or less the peaks would be hanging around there and not too much over.
Yeah.
But I think if you averaged it, it would probably be pretty similar.
Yeah. And look, vocals I'll tend to record hotter. And sometimes I'll have peaks that are going up to -3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a vocal I'll tend to record hotter just because a vocalist is going to want to hear themselves louder over the top of everything. And it's one thing to bring down. But
the lesson to be is leave headroom though.
Correct.
And it's not the digital thing. Sure, digital clipping's bad, but nearly every single bit of gear before that is not designed to be anywhere near 0.
Yeah, and that's sort of the engineer who told me to get a 24-bit with converters these days, aim for that.
Yeah,
aim for that sort of range, was because from a like manufacturing point of view, these converters are kind of designed to work best in the middle.
Yeah.
So as they get to the extreme top end of their dynamic range and the extreme bottom end of their dynamic range, things start to get a little bit murky.
Absolutely.
So if you
there's differences in that, because I mean, there's definitely. I like to use a Lynx Aurora for most of my mixing, and I know that can't push towards the top. That being said, a Burl likes to be all the way up. Like it really comes together. So there's definitely converters where those line amps have considered that. And a lot of mastering grade ones do push that up there, but that's getting into like hundreds of $1,000s.
Yeah.
for every couple of channels. So,
Yeah.
but generally, most converters are going to be happier in the middle of their range, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of what's probably most helpful for anyone that's trying to learn this stuff is that we're really talking about our gain structure, which is really about balancing our signal to noise ratio. So we want to maximize the signal and minimize the noise. And in modern converters recording at 24-bit, 30 dB is still well above the noise floor.
Yes.
You probably would get it. I would say some of the hiss in the cheaper stuff, recording even hotter, even to -10, is probably okay. If anyone tells you -12, the etymology of that is the 16-bit dynamic range of 96 dB.
Yeah.
So anywhere in that kind of range. Don't be too scared if you even get into the -5, -3 range from time to time. But I'd be aiming for, well, as Terry said, -18 dB full scale is technically the line level 0 dB VU.
Yeah. But at least we're not dealing with tape hiss and things like that. And let's face it, we're living in the age where most plugins are trying to put noise back in because we're so quiet. So as long as it's not being slammed up the top there, it's going to be pretty safe.
Agreed.
So all those Logic users sending us stems that are all clipped out, stop it. Just stop it.
And let's wrap with this one. Should I EQ before or after compression?
My God. Well, it's both, isn't it?
It's both.
So let's try to figure out why. So I would EQ before if there's some feature of the instrument that I want to hear more of, but it's not dynamically controlled. So if I like the top end in acoustic guitar, but it's poking out, crank that top end and have the compressor tame it.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I like the sound of the performance, and where it's sitting, I'd be doing if I really want to hear the EQ, put it that way, and actually tonally shift it, because the compressor is going to basically undo most of the big moves you make. Then I'd be putting the EQ afterwards.
Yeah,
is that more or less?
Well,
where you are?
I think again it just comes back to understanding the tools, and just that question, which is such a common question. It's just like someone putting their hand up saying, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, what is equalization? How do I apply it? And
what am I trying to achieve?
And how do I apply it?
Yeah.
So for me, just as you do, I do equalization before and after. And my equalization before is very often the corrective stuff. So if I know that I want to get rid of all of everything below 80 hertz on a vocal, I'm going to roll that off before it goes into the compressor.
We don't want our compressor reacting to that bump on the mic and
Correct.
things like that. Yeah.
If there's some resonance build up again that there's on certain notes and I don't want that affecting the threshold of the compressor, I might tame that also. If I know that the compressor is going to do a top end roll off, then I'll compensate on the way in to smooth it out, especially if I know that I've already got an EQ, they're doing other moves. And then after the compression, it's again saying, well, we've packaged up the dynamic range now, so do we need to do anything tonal? Because what is EQ? It's frequency-dependent gain.
Yeah.
So it's just, what do I need to do to the independent frequencies in this signal before compression so that I get what I want out of compression? And what do I want to do, if anything, after the compressor to deal with independent frequencies?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to do either. Sometimes you compress instead of equalization.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're not uniform across the spectrum, definitely. So sometimes you can achieve that stuff just with the compression.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another deep question, isn't it? You could go on with that. But I think a classic one I always think of is presence on guitars.
Yeah.
So often that 3K thing is pretty abusive. If you crank it, go into a compressor, let the compressor tame it, then turn it back down again, at the other side of the compressor, you'll find it'll just sound nicer without it being without it really having changed at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that idea has a lot of the answer in it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's a tool to be used to fix a problem. Yeah.
Exactly. One last question to wrap up this episode. It's a big one.
Uh-oh.
What is the biggest myth in audio production?
That you should be getting anyone but us to mix your music.
I saw that somewhere, actually.
The biggest myth. Oh, man. Do you have an answer? I'm caught off guard with that one.
I was sort of caught off guard with it and thinking of going in a kind of different direction, perhaps for the aspiring producers rather than the DIY artists. I think the biggest myth in audio production is that you have to be cheap to get work.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely. From the producer point of view.
From the producer point of view.
Yeah.
And it's something that I told myself for years. It was, if I'm not really cheap, no one will work with me. But if you're really cheap, you will very quickly go back to another job when you realize that you can't survive.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to serve you. It's not going to serve your clients. But I always just think of that, you know, that builder analog. Like if a builder comes in and builds a room for me and he says, I'll do it for $20. Am I just going to, when he finishes the job, go, yeah, great? Or am I going to look in and like, where the hell did you cut corners, mate?
Exactly.
You're doing something to psychology by the psychology of the people you're working with by underselling yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny what happens when you do start charging properly and people just stop questioning you. You haven't changed anything you're doing.
It's just your mindset.
Just your mindset and their mindset by saying that this is what it's worth and this is what I'm worth.
Yeah, and this is not the industry to be in if you're money driven.
No,
because when I say like you was like we're charging what is sustainable for us.
Yes,
it's not like $10,000 a day. Ha 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 ha. It's sometimes $400 a day. It's like, well, that's kind of at the bottom end of what I could sustain giving you my time today.
And we have overheads and
exactly. But I think you sort of recognize pretty quickly that you need to be in a position where you can make that, $500 to $1,000 a day, not every day, but that $900 long day tracking means that if you go a little bit overtime in the mix revisions, it's okay. But if you're billing out at $200 a day and everything's taking longer, you quickly realize you're working for $8 an hour.
And try having a good attitude in that situation.
This is why it's not good for the client. It's not good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's the biggest myth is that you have to be cheap for people to work with you. What you have to be is you have to be pleasant. You have to be understanding. You have to care about the artist. And I think all of that is potentially more important than your skill level as an engineer.
Yeah.
Your personability.
Absolutely. Like a terrible engineer who's very, very good at working a vocalist is going to get a better vocal performance than someone who knows the exact mic and the exact placement.
Yep.
If you can make them feel good and trust you and feel comfortable, better things are going to happen because the vocal is the most important part.
Exactly.
Remember to like and subscribe.